Hey folks, this video is for those of my friends that I like to teach how to make sourdough, how I do it. So if you're here for crochet content, this might not be your jam, but if you are one of my people in real life and you're wanting to troubleshoot how I do my bread, this is the video for you. So I do base my recipes and my methodology off of Jim Leahy's method from the Sullivan Street Bakery Cookbook. The recipes that I use are not exact and his methodology is a bit more precise than what I do. But today I'm going to show you how I am making my sandwich sourdough. So technically this is a sourdough brioche. This bread is something that we eat on a regular basis. I keep this, I think it's like a bagel sized plastic bag that I can get from the grocery store. But I can see I have enough for a couple more sandwiches, so I'm gonna go ahead and make some more bread. It is a total of a 3-day process. You need 1 day to make your starter. You need 1 day to let it rise to mix the dough, and then the 3rd day you bake it. So right now it is about 6:36 in the morning. I have my butter warming and I have my eggs and my starter coming up to temperature. So special equipment, I have a kitchen scale here. I do measure things in grams. And then I also need a stand mixer fitted with the paddle attachment. So not a dough hook, but the paddle attachment. Ingredients wise for this recipe, I will have everything, all the recipe in the description box, but I'm going to need between 100 and 125 grams of starter. This looks a little bit like I might not have the full 125, but if I have 100, should be fine. I need 2 large eggs that are up at room temperature, and I need between 5 to 8 tablespoons of butter. This is plain unsalted butter. I just have it gently melting. I don't want it too hot. Then I'm going to need some all-purpose flour. I'm gonna need 270 grams. I'm gonna need 100 to 125 grams of room temperature or lukewarm water. I used to set it out and let it come to room temperature and let it kind of settle, but now I just get it straight out of the tap. And then I'm going to need a teaspoon of salt. Salt is very important to this recipe. So I'm gonna let the butter finish melting, and then I will show you guys what the methodology is. If you are wondering about this starter, I am gonna show you in a different video how to refresh your starter. You do not have to feed it every day. You use what you need, and then you throw it in the fridge. In this family, I bake several different sourdough things every week, so this stays in the fridge maybe less than a week in total, but it's very low maintenance, and that is why I love this methodology. All right, my butter is just melted. It is not too hot, but I thought I would go ahead and show you the other equipment that you're gonna need. You will need a rubber spatula to scrape down the bowl. You will need a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon measurement. You'll need some kind of kitchen towel to keep the bread moist. You'll at some point need some parchment paper, and you'll need a standard loaf tin. I like the ones that are uncoated. That's just me. All right, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to measure my water into here, get that going, and then I will measure in my starter. The first thing we need to do is to dissolve the starter into the water, and we'll do that in the stand mixer. All right, so that is about 125 grams of just lukewarm tap water, and that's gonna go straight into the mixer. All right, now I have measured out my starter. You can see it is not slack at all. I'm just over 100 grams. That's because I didn't wanna fully scrape out my jar. I need to save that to make more starter. And whenever I do this, I just use like a butter knife and scrape it out. I do need to make sure I wash this because it can get really sticky. But yes, that is the starter. It is not slack at all. I'm gonna wet that up later. I do like to do the water first just so it doesn't stick as badly, but you can see how thick that is. I'm turning it upside down. Okay, so that's gonna go in, and I'm gonna start mixing it up to start dissolving that through. All right, that has been going for a minute. So you can see it's a bit more dissolved in there. It's nice and frothy. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my 2 eggs first, and then after that I will put in my butter. I do want to put my butter in last, not necessary, but just if it is a little warm, I want to make sure that the eggs that are still a little bit cool can integrate well into the mix. And then I have my flour weighed out. This is just regular all-purpose flour, and it is at 270 grams approximately. You see that I do not even have a digital scale. This is not an exact science. It's incredibly forgiving, which is why I do it. So here we go. Let me mix in the other ingredients, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I have everything mixed in here. I'm gonna put in my flour. I'm gonna gently start that going, and then I'm gonna add the salt in after it's a little bit mixed. Okay, in goes the salt. The only time I've ever had this bread fail is when I've missed the salt. Okay, so we're mixing in. I'm gonna go ahead and crank it up to like second highest. Here's the time. I'll show you when it's mixed. All right, so this thing can get really loud, but that's one indication that the dough is getting ready. It's starting to clump together and clear the sides of the bowl. So I'm gonna lift it up now just to give you guys a sense. This is what we're looking for. Long, stretchy dough. Okay, so this is done for now. I'm going to scrape down the sides of the bowl. I'm going to cover it with a wet cloth, and I'm gonna let it go. Just hang out at room temperature. Granted, we are in a house that's maybe between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit with like a medium humidity for Nashville, Tennessee. So that's important to note, that different ambient temperatures and different humidity levels might have slightly different times in terms of rise time. But what you're looking for is that kind of shape of dough. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's all kind of put together. Here is our dough. The sides of the bowl are scraped down. It's kind of come together. And I just have a wet kitchen towel. I wet it pretty thoroughly, wrung it out, so it's not drippy at all, but it is moist all the way through. I'm gonna cover this up and I will let it rest. Right now it is right at 7 o'clock, and I will let you know what it looks like and when for the next step in the process. This gets to just hang out at the house for a bunch of hours. All right, folks, it is now about 4:30 in the afternoon. Pardon me not checking the oven timer clock because we have something in the oven, but I wanted to show you where we are at with the bread. So it has risen. It's still, you can see the bubbles in it. It's still a little sticky. I'm gonna re-moisten my towel, and I'm gonna put this whole thing in the fridge for a couple of hours. You don't have to do this step. If you want to just sprinkle flour just like around the edges before you shape it, you can. But I found that if I stick it in the fridge, it'll firm up a little bit and it'll make shaping a whole lot easier. So next thing I'm gonna do is show you how I shape my loaf. This dough has been in the fridge for a couple of hours now, and so it should be really nice and stiff and easy to work with. I've just taken my standard loaf pan, and because my pan isn't nonstick, I am lining it with some parchment, but it's still a little bit sticky. So if I wanted to, I could have put flour around the edges, but I'm gonna show you how I fold this dough, and it is so not fancy, y'all. But basically, I'm just folding it in half and then rotating it a quarter turn and folding it in half. Rotating it a quarter turn and folding it in half. And so I am stretching out that kind of top part. You can see how sticky it is. But once I fold it, however much I feel like, I'm gonna plop it here, push it down a little bit, and because I want every last scrap, I'm gonna get the scraps from the bottom of the bowl, plop those on top, and then with my still wet cloth, we're gonna cover that. So right now it is about 7:45 p.m. and tomorrow morning this is gonna be nice and risen. I'll leave this at room temperature, which is about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Leave that at room temperature overnight, and I will bake it tomorrow morning, and I will see you then. Good morning. Let's check on the bread. Looking very good. So now we are gonna bake it and we'll be done. All right, folks, here is the finished loaf of bread. This was in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 41 or 42 minutes. I think I did 42 minutes this time. It doesn't really matter a whole lot, but you can see how it has come up over the side. It's got a little stretching there, that's okay. We are not having to be professionals here, but yeah, this is a beautiful loaf. It's kind of crusty on top, and it's gonna be nice and soft and fluffy in the middle. I'm gonna let this sit in the pan for a little bit and cool, and then using the parchment paper, it'll lift out pretty easily. I don't want to burn myself. But I am gonna want it to be cool before I cut into it, otherwise it will collapse down really easily. Although I am in the habit of cutting off just like the ends and eating that first thing with some honey. It is so good. There's nothing like fresh baked sourdough brioche bread. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, or y'all that know me in real life, just let me know. You have my number, you have a way to get a hold of me. So I look forward to hearing from you soon. Let me know if you've tried this out or anything else I could possibly do, all of that good stuff. And yeah, I will see you later. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.